Neurological Disorders, Lesson 4.1. What is sleep? The goals of this lesson are to engage students with the concept of the neural circuit and to introduce the neural circuit as the way neurons work together to control behaviors. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to describe sleep and what happens to the activity of our brain, muscles, and eyes as we progress through the different sleep stages. Also, students should be able to determine what stage of sleep someone is in by analyzing their EEG. We'll achieve our goals through a sleep quiz, a Socratic discussion, and analyzing EEGs. To prepare for this lesson, you'll need to review the key scientific concepts presented in it. They include an introduction to the phenomenon of sleep, the electroencephalogram, or EEG, how it works, what it shows, and how to read it, and the stages of sleep, including non-rapid eye movement, or NREM sleep, and rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. You can review the scientific content in the background reading provided to you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in the lesson. The teacher manual or lesson plan provides a minute-by-minute explanation of lesson structure, including instructions on how to manage the discussion and activity, and the student workbook provides additional explanation for your students. You also need to be sure to print the activity worksheet, the homework worksheet, and sample sleep journals if your students didn't keep their own sleep journals for tomorrow's lesson. The key point of the lessons due now is to serve as a formative assessment of your students' knowledge about sleep, as well as to engage them with the phenomenon of sleep, which we'll be using throughout Unit 4 as our example to discuss the neural circuit. We'll get to this key point with a self-assessment quiz. In the do now, students determine whether 4 statements about sleep are true or false with a partner. You'll discuss this do now within the lesson's discussion. The key points of the discussion are first to correct common misconceptions about sleep, which are uncovered within the do now's true-false quiz. And the second, that the EEG measures overall activity in the brain areas in the form of waves. These different EEG waves correspond to different brain activities. We'll get to these key points with a Socratic discussion of the do now quiz. The discussion starts by reviewing the do now quiz. You'll use slides 4 through 7 to discuss the 4 true-false statements from that quiz. These 4 statements are written to allow your students to address common misconceptions about sleep. First, to address the idea that sleep is important and you will die if you don't get enough of it. Second, sleep and relaxed wakefulness both allow the body to repair itself from the day's activities. Third, you can't perform properly if you don't get enough sleep. And finally, when you sleep, your brain is actually very active. The next set of slides allow you to review the EEG with your students. The EEG was one of the technologies covered in Lesson 1.3, but it's useful to review how it works and what it shows now, since it is such an important technology for investigations of sleep and neural circuits as a whole. Slide 8 details how the EEG is performed, with a cap of electrodes placed on the head, and Slide 9 shows what the data from an EEG looks like. The next few slides allow you to then elaborate on interpreting the data from the EEG, first by reviewing wave frequency and amplitude, and then by outlining what the different brain waves actually signify. The key points of the activity are to show students that the EEG measures overall activity in brain areas in the form of waves, and that different EEG waves correspond to different brain activities. Additionally, to show that the EEG detects multiple stages of sleep: non-rapid eye movement or NREM sleep, and rapid eye movement or REM sleep. We'll get to these key points by analyzing EEGs. For the activity, you'll give each student a copy of the EEG worksheet and have them work with a partner to complete it. Before beginning the activity, make sure that students understand that the EEG measures activity between 2 cortical areas. Emphasize that the measurement is overall activity through many thousands of neurons. After giving students 7 to 10 minutes to complete the worksheet, you'll use the next slide, which is animated, to review the worksheet with them. The activity also allows you to introduce the concept that the EEG detects multiple stages of sleep, and that we can use the EEG to determine what stage of sleep someone is in. The activity concludes by introducing the 2 types of sleep: non-rapid eye movement, or NREM sleep, and rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. The key points of the wrap-up are that sleep requirements vary, and to prepare for tomorrow's activity. We'll get to these key points with a Socratic discussion. In the wrap-up, you use the graphic on this slide to get students thinking about how much sleep is needed to function properly. You'll ask the students, how much is enough sleep? The answer to this question varies widely, and lays the groundwork for our activity tomorrow, in which we'll be analyzing student sleep journals. The key points of the homework are that sleep deprivation has devastating effects, as well as to prepare for tomorrow's activity, in which we'll be analyzing the sleep journals. We'll get to this key point with a homework worksheet. For homework, students will complete a worksheet that includes a short reading on the effects of sleep deprivation and has them use their sleep journals to calculate their average hours slept, caffeine consumed, and sleepiness scale scores for the last week. If students didn't actually keep their own sleep journals, you will need to give them the sample sleep journals so that they will have data to analyze and bring into the class tomorrow. This lesson usually goes very well, and students typically engage with the do now questions. That said, students often ask for more details about sleep, which is a good thing because that's the focus of this entire unit. You can find more in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. A common question teachers get that relates back to the do now quiz and the rats that died after being sleep deprived is, how do the scientists keep those rats awake? And in fact, if scientists are sleep depriving rats, they can't give them lots of homework. Instead, they'll place them on treadmills so that they have to keep moving, or handle them to keep them awake. Usually at some point within this lesson, and if not in this lesson, at some point within this unit, someone asks, how is being in a coma different from being asleep? While someone in a coma might look like they're asleep, being in a coma is actually a very different state than being asleep. Some of the key differences are that patients in a coma will not open their eyes, not even when intense noxious stimuli are applied, yet these same stimuli will actually awaken someone who is merely sleeping. Additionally, the brain waves recorded from patients in a coma are very different from those sleeping. Patients in a coma have EEG traces full of slow waves and do not cycle through the sleep stages, whereas EEG traces taken from people who are asleep show that they cycle through different periods of sleep and that our brains spend a significant amount of time in a highly active state, REM sleep, when we're sleeping. So while behaviorally a coma might look like sleep, it is actually very different. At the end of this lesson, students should appreciate that sleep is a complex behavior and that by using the EEG, we see the brain cycles through very different stages of sleep each night. This lesson provides the foundation for future discussions of neural circuits that use sleep as an example case to ground an otherwise complex and abstract concept. Additionally, the EEG will be used throughout the unit to analyze the activity of neural circuits, so it is important that your students understand how it works and what it shows before moving on. Don't forget, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, to let us know. You can contact any of the CTSE team members and we'd be more than happy to help you.